Good morning. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. I see in the chat, Zion's left shoe is telling us, the breaking news that we caught about 10 minutes ago or so, that no Freddie Peralta not throwing baseballs today. And yes, indeed, the slate has been flipped on its head. Of course, you guys are looking for Blender. Blender's right here. Blender's always doing his show 11 o'clock. We're kind of invading his turf because there's some afternoon baseball, a plethora of games. I believe it's 11 in total. Blender is here. We're joined by Alex Alexante. I don't know, Alex. Is this going to be something going forward? We're going to see a lot of you because I love, getting your thoughts in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. You're always hanging out in the MLB channel. Of course, you have your articles as well. Alex, is this a one-time deal, or are we going to have this going forward? I'm thrilled to have you on.
Well, you see, I have 3 small children who invade my life, so it's hard for me to get on GrindersLive at 4 p.m. my time because they're running around and TV is blasting and they want to talk about Pokemon to me. So the mornings are all gone. I got my safe haven at home, and
who doesn't want to talk about Pokemon? I think we should spend an hour talking about Pokemon.
We'll bring my son.
Can you spend an hour talking about Pokemon? Could you fill in an hour?
Well, I mean, you need to collect them all, so I mean, I'm assuming it's going to take a while.
Okay, you killed 20 seconds. Could you fill an hour? I know you can filibuster with the best of them. Could you actually give me like an hour presentation?
Probably not. I think I know like maybe what there's Pikachu, there's Charizard, there's Charmander. I can name maybe a couple.
Bulbasaur.
I'm not learning anything. You're just naming names.
There's Mega Venusaur. I could just start making things up, and Dean has no idea.
What we can name things like that. We're old. We're 40-year-olds, right? We can name baseball players. Claudel Washington. Okay.
Atlanta Braves, I believe.
Melito Perez. Melito Perez and his great hair. Excellent Jerry curl.
FP Santangelo. Frank Paul, if you're curious.
What's
up, Chet? That's a good one too.
Benny Agbayani. A friend of mine worked for Benny Agbayani's agent like 20 years ago, and he said, "Do you know why his number was 50?" And I was like, "No, it's because Hawaii's the 50th state." I was like, "Oh, nice little thing."
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yankee Angel, I think. Is that both those teams he played for?
He was definitely with the
Mets.
For a while.
Yeah, he was probably most popular with the Mets. We could do this all out. I think it was like the Levitard show that basically you could just sit around and name all baseball players' names.
Why not?
Like dudes just enjoy that. Like that's a fun conversation.
Spanky Lavalier.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why we enjoy that, but that probably says something about us. But I would enjoy it for sure. Freddie Peralta is another baseball player we can mention. He's a baseball player that's not playing today. Again, he was scratched. We had last night. I was digging into the slate, and there was 3 players, 3 teams that hadn't even announced the starter just yet. Albert Suarez, who I guess he's been throwing baseballs in the KBO. Like he has not thrown baseballs in Major League Baseball in like 7 years. I'm like, Albert Suarez, who is he? And I plugged him in the Fangraphs. It's like, it's like 2016, 2017. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Albert Suarez is throwing baseballs today for Baltimore. Peralta, I think it's like they were talking about giving him a day last night, so it's not a huge shock. I think he's fine. I think they just wanted to give him like an extra day or so as far as rest. Yesterday they were talking about Landon Knack, who I'm told is a person who's professionally trained to throw baseballs, might pitch for the Dodgers. That wasn't yesterday. That's happening today. He's throwing baseballs for LA. The Dodgers, biggest team total on the board, close to 6, taking on Jake Irvin. 11 games. A lot of good pitching. I don't know. Like Peralta was the top dog and like in the best form and all that kind of stuff. And he was going to be Blender was that. He was not.
I mean, when you say good pitching, it's not. It's a lot of
relative.
Middle. I mean, it's a better way of putting it is that there's a lot of not bad pitchers, right? But
have you seen all the slates though? Like as the slates go, and that's how pitching is this year.
2024. Yeah, that's just baseball.
That is true. In relative terms, this is probably a decent pitching slate.
Tarek Skubal is like a top 5-ish pitcher in baseball, give or take.
Is he active? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, sure. We're not going to count Strider, are we? We're not. Are we counting Garrett Cole?
We could put together a Hall of Fame rotation of just guys who are injured.
We could do that. Yes. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer. There's a whole list for sure. There's also a couple guys that. You know what it is, like name recognition. Kevin Gausman's like, oh man, Kevin Gausman. Well, he's been a disaster this year. Max Fried has been kind of up and down, but like I think he's fine. He's just got a tough matchup against Houston. I'll tell you what's interesting is the way DK and FanDuel, they kind of price these guys differently. FanDuel sort of like baked into like what they're doing lately. Like Gausman is 7-7 on FanDuel. Pablo Lopez has not been spectacular either. He's another one and that's kind of like when you look at these names, like, oh, Pablo Lopez is really, really good. Okay, he hasn't been himself so far this year. Tough matchup versus Baltimore, good young lineup. But he's like 8-6 on FanDuel. It's like, okay. And like Peralta was 11-2. Screwball's in the 10s. Bryce Miller's in the 10s. Brady Singer. He's taking on Alex, the White Sox. That's your team. I assume that's your team. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry. You want to take 30 seconds or so?
No, I'm good.
Tommy Pham?
We gotta get Jock Peterson on the team then, if Tommy Pham's on the team.
The famous fantasy football
friendship. Yeah, they had a fantasy football fight on field or something before a game years ago.
That's right. Is that what Tommy Pham is most remembered for? Fighting about fantasy football with Jock Peterson?
Tommy Pham was a legitimate lefty masher for a solid year and a half.
Was that projecting in the bat too? Like I know Cardi's got a whole category for lefty mashers. Was that the one that actually broke his system? Tommy Pham, him and Brian McCann?
He was one that
James McCann.
Yeah, he and James McCann were two guys who people constantly call a lefty masher. Oh,
your video just popped out for a second. We can hear you just fine, but your video is good to go. But I don't know if now we just lost them all together. Maybe Alex, we jump back on a second. Not really sure what's going on technically. Here we go. Alex is back.
StreamYard kicked me out.
Yeah, well, no worries. You're good to go. That's a little bit of a what do they say? It's like the rookie little hazing there for you. Just because it's your first show of the season, I suppose. I don't know what the context is, but Sid Fernandez was randomly brought up in chat.
He had wore number 50. It was part of one of the best rotations in baseball history.
You're talking about like Ron Darling and Dwight Gooden.
Ron Darling, Sid Fernandez,
Gooden,
Cone.
Was Tanana
at some point he had Saberhagen a little bit later in the 80s.
Saberhagen wasn't a Met, was he?
No, Saberhagen was a Met in the 90s. He was a Royal in the 80s, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or do I have flipped around?
He was best on the Royals.
The Royals, and then he came to the Mets in 1989, 90, 91.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Look at us. We're just naming baseball. We can do this. Let's do it. New show. New morning show before Blender. We just name baseball guys.
This is DFS. We care about daily fantasy sports. We care about today and today only, not 30 years ago. Unfortunately,
someone's asking about Wilson. For the Brewers, it's Bryce Wilson. Isn't it the pitcher that used to play for the Braves?
I think so. Yeah, I believe he was working out of the pen for Milwaukee. Right. I was pulling up his stuff because this kind of hit right before the show dropped, and I don't know everybody in the bullpen, but I'm pretty sure he was working out of the bullpen there. Bryce Wilson throwing baseballs today for Milwaukee. No Freddie Peralta. Probably Brandon. We'll have this conversation later on. Unpopular opinion. This is coming right at Blender. Probably Alex too. Stacking is overrated. Yeah, you just pick out the homers. If you can just tell me the 8 guys that hit home runs, like why do you need to stack?
So play a damn parlay. Play the damn parlay.
You'll get an 11 home run parlay together. You'll make more money.
We don't do 11. Why
12,000?
8, whatever. I mean, it's still a lot. I can go on FanDuel right now. You put together some hitters? Plus 500 the home run thing. You can do that. You're gonna win more than the 50K. That's it's available.
Brandon said, "Who said I'm not?" So that is what he's doing. Actually, Blender, you probably how many bets do we have in the can already? Because you knock out 25, 30,
how many?
50,
How many do I? It's a light day because it's an early day.
Yeah.
Right now I got 65.
Oh, they just do you have a set unit for just you're putting 20, 25, 50? I don't know what your unit is.
It depends on the stat category. Typically pitching props, I put way more on pitching props than on hitting props.
Yeah.
And way more on normally distributed stats than on non-normally distributed stats. Anything that has very high variance, I also do less also. So just a little education here in the morning. Normally distributed stats are more like counting stats, right? So Ks, things like that, where typically most pitchers, 2, 3 Ks at the low end, 8, 9 Ks at the high end. It kind of looks like a normal distribution. High variance stats are like walks allowed, So like a lot of walk props are like 1.5, and like the difference, like you shift like you add an extra 5 miles an hour of wind, or you change the batting order. Just you take out like the highest walk batter out of like the opposing lineup, like later in the day, because we don't know, we have projected lineups, and that walk prop could turn from like a 15% positive edge to a -7% like that. So in those cases where I'm not sure if the order isn't out yet for those pitching props, like I don't want to put a lot of money down on walks allowed and stuff like that. But on like the strikeouts, pitching outs, earn runs, hits allowed, stuff like that. That's what I do the bulk of. And then on the hitting props, much less. Like literally, like I would say 80+% of my volume is in pitching props, and the hitting props are early. I don't mind taking home run props early, but they're for much smaller amounts. And then as the lineups come out, and as I'm more confident that the projected order is going to be the order, then I start putting in hit props, total base props, strikeout props, stolen base props, but on the stolen bases and the home runs, it's not going to be a lot of money because those are highly variant. I mean, some of the stolen base props I'm taking are like plus 1100s, plus 1800s. Like I'm not putting down $100 on those.
Maybe we can get some of those bets out of you later on in the show. Do hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on those notifications. Another reason to hit the like button and turn on those notifications, do everything else. We appreciate that. It's a thank you. It's a nice way of saying thank you. The other thing is, we get enough likes, we're going to give away RG Premium. We're going to spin that wheel at about 12 o'clock, about noon. How do you get your name on the wheel to get yourself 1 week free of RG Premium? You jump in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, and you jump into the live stream chat channel. And then I assume producer Steve, I've not jumped there just yet. I assume producer Steve has put up the just click the avatar, and he will take your name and throw it up on the wheel. We're going to spin that imaginary wheel in about 45 minutes or so. And if we get enough likes, we'll give away 2 individual weeks.
We don't have a real wheel. It's an imaginary wheel. I thought we put up an actual wheel.
No. I mean, what kind of budget do you think this show has, Blender? You have the money for a wheel?
Steve puts up a wheel. It's not a figment of our imagination.
Well, right? Like a virtual wheel of some sort?
Yeah, it's a virtual wheel.
That's a wheel. See, that's a real wheel. I'm not making that up. Now it's not a physical wheel, but it's not an imaginary. That is not imaginary. That actually exists.
It's somewhere in the middle.
I want to
You made it sound the imaginary wheel as if we're just gonna pull it out of our ass, like we're just gonna pretend that a wheel exists and then just pick someone.
But like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, like that's a legit wheel, like a Ferris wheel.
It's a physical wheel. Yeah. It's a non-physical actual wheel, but it's not imaginary.
We got an update as far as
is an existential wheel.
Is the wheel real? We can talk about that for the next hour or two as well. It is a slight weather issues in Detroit's yellow orange. We'll keep our eye on that one. Straight yellow for the Mets. It's much better as far as Chicago. We got boots on the ground there, and Alex, I assume he'll confirm it. It's going to be winds blowing out as well for Chicago. We did get lineups in that game. Also, let's see, we have, I think it's Kansas City's lineup just dropped. Keeping an eye on lineups. We're going to have a whole bunch sprinkling on through because we have the slate goes up to 4 o'clock. So there's possibly going to be some, lineups are not officially out when the slate officially starts. Game 1 for the Royals, it's Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, Melendez, Velasquez, Frazier, Renfroe, and Isbell. I think we got the Blue Jays also, Springer, Guerrero, Bichette, Turner, Biggio, Schneider, Varsho, Kirk, and Kiermaier. All right. So have we figured out what we're doing here, Alex? Give me the screenshot, the overview of the slate, and we'll talk about, I'll tell you, optimizers on FanDuel are giving you Gaussman just because the price is so cheap. It's not like a runaway, but he's the one hitting the most that I'm running, just 26% or 28%, but that's number one. It's pretty spread out. We'll see what we get as far as ownership. But, throwing Peralta out, a bit of a wrench here as far as the slate. Alex, what is your overview? And feel free to open up the pitching pool.
Well, we touched on this earlier with, the Hall of Fame rotation on the IL. I raised in Discord, can we pick out 10 pitchers that we would not stack against if they're 30% owned? Because yesterday we had Lance Lynn, 30-something% owned. We had Hunter Green, who's 30-something% owned. When you see that number go up there, are there guys like we don't have Clayton Kershaw around anymore? So when I see a Tariq Skubal at 25% owned, he's maybe he is a top 5 active pitcher, but is he going to scare me away from the Rangers? Hell no. Now Peralta's off so it kind of takes one of my points away with Peralta. I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the rotation, but just in a general sense, I used to look at pitching first. I would look at the projections and sort by the projections and take a look at that. Now I'm sorting by ownership and seeing who I want to target with my stacks, by seeing who the higher owned pitchers are, because they're not world beaters right now.
Additional context doesn't matter as far as like ballpark or as far as how big the slate is.
Matter saying, how good that opposing team is. Like, I mean, we're talking about the freaking Rangers here. Rangers are a pretty good baseball team. So when I see a pretty good baseball team against a pitcher who is very good, but should any pitcher over 9K really be untouchable at 25, 30, 35% owned in today's baseball landscape? I think no.
Well, I would take on the other side another variable to add to that. The size of the slate matters, and I think people talk about stacking against decent pitchers, good pitchers, ace pitchers, if you want to call them, that having a pitcher do bad, like they're negatively correlated. We all know this. If the worse a pitcher does, that means the stack against him has been scoring points and vice versa. The thing is that you can win a GPP with a mediocre pitching performance. It's very hard to win with a mediocre stack performance. So, for instance, if you're like, well, Tariq Skubal may be 30+% owned at 10K, I'm going to play the Rangers for leverage. Well, on like a 5-game slate, like there's only so many teams to choose from that may be a much better approach than on an 11-game slate where out of 22 teams, one of these 22 teams is going to score 8+ runs probably. And that's the team that you're going to kind of have to need. At least one of them. I mean, there may be multiple ones. The Cubs may score a bunch. The Dodgers may score a bunch. The Twins are cheap and they could score off a Albert Suarez or something. I mean, they're like the pitching isn't great. So we could see Atlanta score a bunch of runs against JP France. So like Tariq Skubal going out and pitching like, let's say he gets hit for 4 innings and he gets 5 strikeouts and he gives up 5 earned runs. Like this Ranger stack at that point doesn't win you anything. He needs to get blown up. So
they got to do the bullpen. Game's not over.
Right, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I mean, half the game is going to be from the starter. So my attitude on larger slates is that like I'm much less inclined. I've said it in the past. If you go to the past videos, I typically on DraftKings, I'm looking for the SB2 types that are going to be too chalky. I'm looking for like because Peralta's gone and maybe more people will play guys like Matson Severino, who probably are the 2 best pitchers in that cheaper range. They both don't have. I think they're good at mitigating damage, like especially Matt Severino. His strikeout rate is down. His swing and strike rate is down, but he's facing the Pirates. He probably doesn't get killed, right? But these are the types of pitchers that shouldn't be 30% owned, because the difference between Matson Severino and then guys like Michael King or Dane Dunning or Andrew Abbott, he's a little bit more. Paul Blackburn, for instance. Like the projection difference between these pitchers aren't that dramatic. So to me, if I was looking for a leverage play for a stack, I'd look more. I mean, maybe not Oakland because that's a little disgusting, especially in Oakland. But I wouldn't mind if people are going to play Michael King. I have no problem playing Brewers bats. I mean, Pittsburgh isn't all that great, but I mean, I'm looking more for those types rather than, can I take a one-off righty bat against Skubal for a home? Sure, yeah, okay, you could do that. But I think I'm much more likely to fade Skubal than to also play the Rangers.
there's a lot of wiggle room in the middle, right? It's not like binary where Skubal does great or he gets smashed. Like we're talking about, like a lot of this, like it's just like in the middle. It's just like he's okay, he's fine. You don't necessarily need him, and he gives up a few runs. But you don't need the stack either. The game could just basically be crossed out for all you care about. All right. By the
Well, that
way,
goes to
ownership
my
is
next point to this slate. Kevin Gossman is coming in. We're seeing 15%. I think that could go up without Freddie Peralta. Kevin Gossman's losing velocity on his fastball. He's only throwing 2 pitches. He's getting rocked. He's not finding the strike zone, and his pitch count might be up. It might be like, he gets a long leash and pitches badly. Isn't that what we really want? A long leash and pitching badly against a good lineup. So if we take that logic a little bit more to a slightly worse pitcher than Tariq Skubal, who Kevin Gossman is right now, I think I have the Yankees kind of smashing this slate.
Yeah, are they kind of sort of somewhat leveraged, right? I think I was talking about on FanDuel. It looks like Gausman might be the most popular pitcher over there. There's probably enough people that are going to be like, no, I can't do it. He's pitching terrible. We saw that yesterday with Hunter Brown, like to a different extent, where people were just like, well, I don't want to pick on the Braves and I can't do it. But we were talking about how like he's been unlucky. I know he hasn't been great. The raw numbers were terrible. They're horrific. What, he gave up like 12 earned runs or something like that one start. And of course, that's not going to be something going forward. And Atlanta's lineup was weakened. Gausman has just been a disaster. He's had 3 starts and in total has thrown 9 innings. Like and this is a horse. This is a guy that I don't know, 180, 200 innings a year. One of the guys you can rely on, Alex. We're talking about year in and year out. For the last so many years, like this is a guy you can just he's an ace of a staff. And, maybe he'll figure it out. I assume he'll figure it out at some point. Have you dug into his, StatCast stuff? And are you seeing anything? Because I see like the surface stuff. Yeah.
I was trying to find reasons to play him when I first started looking at this. When I first started looking at the slate, thinking there'd be a tilt bias of he's been so bad, no one's going to want to play him. But losing velocity on his fastball, giving up 35% fly balls, ground ball rate's it's under 30%. The WOBA's over 450. His whiff rate looks good. The swinging strike rate looks good, but he's getting hit so hard. 52.9% hard hit rate, 17.6% barrel rate. This isn't a guy something's not right. And I don't know if the projections can pick it up so fast. So I want to get ahead of it.
What about Lopez? Your thought as far as Pablo Lopez, kind of not as bad, but like he's not been as the ace that we normally see out of him.
Lopez, I have an unhealthy liking for in general. I think because he has very good control, and he's facing a good hitting team, but it's in a good pitcher's park. His strikeout stuff has been there this year, but the Orioles have a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. So they're kind of, depending on what's his ownership at right now, everything's kind of thrown on its head with this Peralta news coming out. We have him at 11.
It's pretty condensed.
We have him at 11%. So Pablo Lopez at 11%. Now, if we were talking Tariq Skubal type of ownership, no, I'm out on Lopez. But at 11%, I'm going to be very high on Lopez.
All right. So this is probably going to change, right? The last time we had an ownership update was 10:55. So this is a half hour ago. This stuff is fluid. But the biggest number on DK is Skubal at 26%, which is, that's, I guess, kind of high, but not 1 out of 4 teams are rostering this guy. It's probably going to be a little higher, I think. In Texas, like you said, not an offense really want to pick on, but it's pretty spread out. Severino coming in at 20%, Miller 16, a lot of stuff in the teens. Gausman at 15, Matt's 12, Singer 12. That might go up a little bit. That wouldn't surprise me, just because those White Sox, sorry, Alex, are so terrible. King at 10, Abbott at 9, Dunning at 8. And, FanDuel, the number is a little bit different. Obviously, you're only rostering 1, but Gausman is so cheap over there. He's coming in, Skubal 19%, Gausman at 9%. So the only one in double digits is Skubal on FanDuel. What are your thoughts here, Blender, when it comes to the pitchers, and what are you seeing? Have the Sims done anything for that kind of steered you in a certain direction? Do you like Severino? You kind of talked about the SB2s. We still kind of figuring out what to do here.
Well, I mean, I haven't run anything through SimLabs yet because we still have Peralta in there, so that should be updated shortly. I mean, this may be a slate where this feels like a slate where one of a sub 10%, sub 5% pitcher is the highest scoring pitcher on the slate, and who the hell knows which one it is, right? So I don't think it's like, well, you got to play Steven Matz, well, you got to play Luis Severino, you got to play Tariq Skubal. I don't mind. I would prefer, personally, if I'm going to spend up on pitching today, to play guys that have the longest leashes. So like Brady Singer against the White Sox, 9,200. In the bat, he doesn't project as well because the bat tends to rate the White Sox as a way better team than they probably are. But like Lopez could go 100 pitches. Singer could go 100 pitches. I mean, Gausman obviously could go 100 pitches. I think obviously Gausman's much more price sensitive on FanDuel. But like Skubal's 10K, and yes, can he strike out 8-9 guys? Absolutely. But we also know that he's probably not going past 90 pitches. Is that they don't let him. Unless he's really efficient. He ain't getting past the 6th inning. So like
history.
I'd much rather take a shot on some. If I'm gonna pay, I mean, Max Fried against the Astros, Stroman against the Blue Jays. Like they're not fun names to click on, but nothing stands out from like, who am I scared of? Like Peralta, when he was on the slate, Peralta could come out and strike out 11 guys and be like, didn't matter that he gave up 3 or 4 runs.
Yeah.
He has 30 fantasy points. Skubal is the closest thing to that. But outside of that, I mean, I'm looking at like, even if you just look at strikeout props, like Skubal's the only one with a 6.5 strikeout prop. And like everyone else is kind of like 4.5. Some are 5.5. I mean, Severino's.
What's Singer?
Singer is 5.5. Severino
where's
has
the
a
juice?
higher strikeout prop than Singer does.
Interesting.
To be fair,
where's the juice on that Singer prop? Blender?
What did you say?
Blender.
Where is the juice on that Singer prop? Is it juiced on the over?
I mean, I could just look. I mean, we have.
Okay.
Let's see.
I never pulled up.
Singer right now, the best line available is 155, but it's plus 125 on the over. Severino, I'm just typing it in over here, 5.5, but minus 125 on the over.
Yeah. Okay.
And also the bat has Severino a half a strikeout higher median than Brady Singer. But the thing about Singer is that if he's pitching fine, they'll let him just go for 100 pitches. So to me,
also it's the front half of a doubleheader. So like if they can save the bullpen in the first game, if they can sneak in one more inning for Singer, like and again you're facing the White Sox. This is a team you can be efficient against.
Can you imagine what the White Sox D lineup might look like if they split them up for a double?
Well, we got Eloy back today, right? Eloy's back. Well, yeah, he cracked the lineup.
I got his home run prop.
Is it like 7-1 or something?
No, it's 525. I believe I got it at 525.
Fletcher, Vaughn, Sheets, Jimenez, Benintendi, DeYoung, Shoemake, Lopez, and Maldonado. Yeah, I guess Maldonado won't play the second game. So who's their other catcher? It can't be McCann, right? Is there a guy named McCann? Is
Corey Lee.
Okay. Lee. Is there a McCann and a different team? Confusing. I think that's what's happening there.
I don't know where James McCann is if he's still in the league. I can tell.
There's a different McCann. It's not James.
There's Kyle McCann. Kyle McCann. Dong.
That's who I'm thinking of. That's who I'm thinking of. All right. What lineups are we waiting for, by the way?
But again, back to this Brady Singer point, you look at the White Sox lineup. I'm not looking at, but plate IQ has them at a very low strikeout rate, which the bat, when a lineup has a very low strikeout rate, you're going to see a cap on a player's ceiling. So this is why Brady Singer is going to project not great.
Because it's somewhat of a contact heavy lineup.
Low walk rate too, so it's going to be a lot of balls in play.
Another person I just want to highlight. We didn't mention this guy. We mentioned this guy's name very early. I'm not sure if you need it. Well, obviously, FanDuel, it's out of the question. 4K Albert Suarez against Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's not good, right? They have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup.
Tons of strikeouts.
This is a much more Pritchard. I mean, he's coming from the KBO, so I mean, it's probably equivalent. His ceiling isn't. I mean, he's probably we have him at like 78, 80 pitches, like somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
If you're trying to play a lineup that's like Dodgers Braves, I mean, I think Albert Suarez is playing. We're talking about a lot of pitchers that, like Steven Matz, a good Steven Matz game could be like 4 strikeouts in 6 innings, and he gets you 18 fantasy points. So, like, if Albert Suarez for 4K could get you like 12, 13, something like that, I mean, there may not be a pitcher that has any decent ownership that gets more than 20, 25 points anyway. I think Albert Suarez on DraftKings, obviously, is totally viable.
I was going to ask about Bryce Wilson also because he's not pitched since the 10th. He threw 3 innings in the 10th, like an inning before that, 2 2/3. So not really stretched out, but maybe he can go 5 or 4. How many pitches we projected?
He's 8,700, Dean.
What?
That's a lot of money. Yeah, he's a lot of money.
He was 4K. How could he? How is he 8,700? How is that possible?
I don't know. He's a lot of money.
What is that based on? That's insane. Never mind. Then can cross him off the list. Okay, I just assumed he was 4K. But
no, that's why you were talking. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's 8,700. I'm not playing a converted reliever that hasn't gone out there for a while. We're projecting the bat's projecting him for 81 median. That may be on the high side. So, 8,700. You can't play guys that are close to 9K that you can't see going 6 innings. Like,
Alex, you got a scouting report
for GPPs.
Albert Suarez?
Nothing. I mean, I look at his KBO stats. He didn't strike out a lot of guys there. They're very contact. It's a contact heavy league too. I don't know. And San Diego doesn't strike out much, but aren't they under 20% that lineup? So I understand the logic behind it. I wouldn't say don't play him, but I don't think we need to. I think Matz is good enough. I think Dunning is good enough. Severino, we've talked about Severino being good enough. Paul Blackburn might be good enough at 7.6. Like, I mean, I understand if you want to get that stack in there. I'm not going to say don't play Suarez, but it's just not going to be my target today.
I'm pulling up this lineup here for Minnesota. There are some strikeouts and a lot of strikeouts up top, right?
Up top.
Larnack was called up. Was it Wilmer? I think was set down. Did they send somebody down there for Minnesota? I think he was sent down. Julien, a lot of power, but a lot of Ks, 32%, right out the gate. Jeffers, 26%. Buxton, who's not been good this year, 32% Ks. You got Larnack at 34. It's a pretty heavy strikeout lineup for what it's worth. And I'm not sitting here saying that this guy's going to strike out the world, Suarez, but if you can get like 9 points, like to Blender's point, if you can get that stack that puts up like, 14 or 15 runs like the Dodgers. And I don't think it's the craziest idea
no.
And to the point at the start of the show is like, Alex, how many pitchers are you like, man, I can't imagine not having this guy at this point because we're losing pitchers and, they're just the reliability is kind of fading away a little bit as well. Even when pitchers are pitching great, like Pittsburgh, we saw last night, Jones, they gave him the hook after 59 pitches or so. I guess it's a innings thing, right? And I know they're doing the same thing with Skeens in the minor leagues where he's like, let him go like 3 1/3. Like, what is the point, Pittsburgh? What are you trying to do? But just an observation on the whole as far as pitching. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's completely nuts if it opens stuff up for you. And is Suarez that much distinctly worse than Matz or Blackburn? Maybe. I'm not sure. Are we considering Landon Knack? Is that somebody we're looking at or not necessarily?
If you have a knack for losing money, sure.
Oh boy. Jeez.
I truthfully think that the Nationals, when we talk about stacks, I think the Nationals are absolutely in play today.
Very much so.
They got some power. They'll run. Senzel is projected to play for them. We don't have a lineup just yet. Our projected lineup. I love Abrams. I think Abrams is spectacular. The speed is ridiculous. The power is all right. Winker he's been terrible for a couple of years now, but he's still really cheap, and maybe he can kind of rejuvenate that. Lane Thomas been pretty good, of course. We know about Gallo, and they're cheap. So I think they're on the board in the conversation. They're not top 5 for me. Hey, we talk about this, Alex. You're talking about making lineups. I think you focus mostly on single entry, 3 entry max stuff. Is that correct? As opposed to large field contest?
Yeah,
okay,
that's correct.
And Blender the same, right? That's kind of the same for you right now.
I mean, I typically play the 121, but I also make large field lineups as well. So like I do both.
Tobias Myers.
Yeah,
what team is Tobias?
Bryce Wilson is going to open, and Tobias Myers will be the
what a mess.
The long reliever. There's no reason on the slate. I just don't think, even when we were talking about Albert Suarez, I'm not sure there's a need for a 4K pitcher on this slate unless you're looking at, and like I said, unless you're looking to just stack up, like I want to play the Braves and the Dodgers together.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a need for this. And there's not, like someone's in chat is like vomit stacks. Like, I know I'm known for the vomit stacks. Vomit stacks are not even a thing anymore. You know why?
Oh,
there's no aces.
Yep.
The whole point, the people focus too much on the vomit and not on the reason why you're growing up. Right?
Well, I mean, the vomit, it's eye catching. That's what gets my attention. If you say stack, right. I'm not listening to that guy. Wait, vomit? Hold on, now you got me.
The reason why you use vomit stacks is so you can play like Jacob deGrom and Clayton Kershaw in the lineup at 212K pitch. You're playing Strider and Scherzer at 12-2 and 10-6. And the only way you could do that is with 5 batters that are like 33K or something. And you just hope that the Tigers put up 6 runs and the stack hits, and you're the only person that could have 2 40-point pitchers in your lineup. Like, dude, we're talking about a slate that we consider to be good for pitching. And I'm looking at this going, what 2 expensive guys do I want to jam into my none? Like, there's no pitchers that exist like that anymore. So to me, it's like, I almost feel that pitching feels like, why am I paying 10K for any pitcher at this point?
Scooball's like, kind of that guy. It's just not against Texas. Like if it was Scooball taking on Oakland, you would just jam him in just because you have to do that. I mean, of course,
I wouldn't need to play a vomit stack even with a 10K pitcher because then I could play Mats or Severino, and I don't need to play 5 3K batters in a lineup anyway. So, like, the purpose of vomit stacks from 5 years ago was when we had these slates where all like the top starters were pitching on one day, and it's like, well, how the hell you have Nola and Scherzer and Glasnow and Strider? Like, it's like, dude. You could only play one of these guys because you can't afford anything else. It's like, no, I'm going to play 2 of them and then hope the Pirates do well. Like, that's the vomit stack strategy.
Is it vomit pitchers now? Or is that going too far?
It's kind of in the middle. See, these pitchers, I don't think that you play vomit pitchers, but maybe you play something like Pepto-Bit, like your stomach's upset, but not at the point.
What's like vomit, but not as bad? What's like almost as bad as vomit? You didn't quite get there.
You gotta you call it the double bagging pitchers. You put on 2 condoms and whip out a Steven Matz against Oakland.
Welcome to the show, Alex. But I've been correcting in the chat. Yes, Jesse Winker has been good this year in a small sample, and good for him. But like, he's been bad for several seasons. Ask a Seattle Mariners fan how good Jesse Winker is. But yes, he's been good so far this year. Last year, he had a 45 ISO versus righties and 183 at bats, which is really, really bad. But maybe he's corrected himself and he's going to be good going forward. Hey, Alex, do you have a take as far as they're saying that Severino is vomit? And he was vomit last year for sure. And he was fun to pick on. But like, and again, I know that supposedly the Mets like spotted, like there's a story that they spotted like he was tipping his pitches. He's been better this season. Good ballpark to pitch in as well. Have you dug in on Severino? Do you think the reclamation project is real? You think he's kind of like becoming what he once was or close enough to it?
Well, I don't know about the pitch tipping, but I do know he's, fastball guy, a lot of side to side stuff. It was a lot of big slider sweeper type of stuff when he was with the Yankees. And now he's got a cutter that cuts just a little in on lefties, and he's starting to get them out. And that used to be a big problem for him. So, I mean, Stevie pointed this out earlier on the morning grind. And yeah, I mean, he's using the cutter about 17% of the time. If that goes up against some of these lefties, I mean, he there's the possibility that he has an untouchable game, which for his price tag, that possibility in today's landscape makes him a worthy of a lot of ownership.
Yeah, and there are some lefties. Obviously, the best bats for Pittsburgh.
He has to put things into perspective for his price. Severino has the fourth highest strikeout prop on this slate.
For his price.
The fourth, and the ones that are higher than him are Gausman, Lopez, and who else? Bryce Miller. Brandon Pfaadt is about the same. So it's like all these guys. I mean, he's $1K cheaper than most of these guys. When I mention a strikeout prop, it's not because it's like, well, the strikeout prop. It's like, well, we're getting an hour before lock, an hour and a half before lock. I mean, the strikeout markets are pretty not efficient, but I mean closer. It should say something that the books are hanging these lines even after sharp money has been betting into them. When you see a strikeout projection that equates to almost 6 strikeouts for 7,300, is that going to happen? Not necessarily, but if people are going to be scared of playing Severino, I'll play him. But I mean, I don't want to. The thing that I don't want to happen is that when 110 comes around Eastern time, that I look in the app and Severino is 42% owned, and I go, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I mean, that to me, that's the key. If he stays around 20%, I have no problem playing Severino.
We got an update as far as projected ownership as of 11:35, so about 10 minutes ago. Skubal jumped up, as we talked about, 31%, Severino 22% and change. Miller, we haven't really talked about Bryce Miller at 19%. Guy who spent 19%. Matt's at 14, Singer at 14. If Singer holds at 14, I really like that. Lopez at 13, which is, I think that's pretty interesting as well. The Severino thing, to your point, Alex, I was looking at his numbers last year versus lefties. He got absolutely ravaged by left-handers, 279 ISO. That's really, really not good. 16.9% Ks as well. And you got O'Neal Cruz, you have Brian Reynolds, you got Rowdy Tellez, you got Sawinski. So the Pirates come with some legit lefties. But if you think he kind of corrected that to some degree, then maybe he's interesting and worth a look. Just seeing ISO this year in a very, very small sample, 34 bats at 94, striking out 29% of lefties. Again, really, really small sample. But if that is something that he kind of figured out, obviously that would make a big difference. Got an Atlanta lineup. We got Darno back in there. Acuna, Harris, Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, Arcia, Darno, Kelnick, and Guillerme. We have Houston. Let's see. Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, Diaz, Pena, Dobon, Abreu, and Caratini. So, Diaz, they're running out 2 catchers. Diaz is doing the DHing. Diamondbacks, Marte with the homer on the last at bat last night. That Chicago-Arizona game was a lot of fun. Carroll, Gurriel, Walker, Suarez, Grichuk, Moreno, Blaze Alexander, and Newman in the 9-hole. I guess somebody got scratched the Marlins. We don't really care about that, but looks like the Marlins have an updated lineup. All right. Alex, I'm curious, do you have your 2 pitchers in mind? Like, this is the 2 pitchers. We kind of work the other way, is like, this is the stack I want, and I'll figure out the 2 pitchers. To your point, that like stack matters more than pitchers, right? Just sort of survive pitching, and just like whatever 2 pitchers work, or is it kind of depend upon the day? And like some days, like, well, this is the guy I want because I'm seeing some things, and that's that ownership, yada yada. What's the take today? Like, are we just saying this is the stack I want? I'm going to figure out the pitchers, or you have your 2 pitchers and you kind of make the stack work around that?
I started the day with a pool of about 8 pitchers from which to choose, and normally I never have 8, and I just had 8 because there were 8 who were just like kind of guys, and they're all kind of the same. So I was going to make the decision based on ownership. I've tossed out Gausman from there. Peralta's obviously thrown out of there. I'm not replacing with Bryce Wilson for 8,700. And I don't know. So my initial dummy build is Severino Mats. Will I stick with that now that I see Pablo Lopez seems to have his ownership kind of capped? I think I can fit in Lopez. I wasn't interested in Dane Dunning until I see these numbers. I thought Dane Dunning would be higher owned against Detroit, but under 10%.
Yeah,
he could get subbed in for Severino or Mats for me. Max Fried, no one wants to play Max Fried because it's the Astros and it's the Astros, but Max Fried might be, he's one of the best talent-wise pitchers on the slate. If, he can accumulate outs in 90 pitches, I mean, that's a guy who can, in 90 to 94 pitches, he can go 7 innings just getting a bunch of ground balls. So I'm really letting ownership be my guide with pitching today. And so I can't really tell you a definitive answer yet. I need another half hour probably.
I'll just point out Fried on FanDuel at 7-4. Like, he's one of the guys that, like, I don't want to say he's the most likely, but like he's on the board. He's on the Family Feud board and maybe even on the podium to get the QS because he can actually, like you said, he can go 6 or 7 if he's pretty efficient. Of course, Houston, tough lineup. But, he's a strike thrower, doesn't give a lot of homers historically. I think he's worth a look on FanDuel at 7-4. Blender, let's put a bow on the pitchers. We'll talk stacks in a second. What's your official approach? Are you still kind of like figuring it out? Because we've had multiple pitchers swap in and out.
I'm a lineups, not players type of guy. So, like, whatever comes out, comes out. But I agree with a lot of what Alex said. I think that the ownership delta between pitchers is going to be much wider than it should be today. In general, overall, that people are going to be attracted to certain ones over the others, even though the projection difference doesn't warrant it. And I think the ones that are the ones that he mentioned, Lopez, Fried, Dunning, Singer, Stroman, even, those are kind of maybe Brandon Pfaadt. And I'm not a big Brandon Pfaadt guy, but I'm always. How
do you feel about Brandon Pfaadt?
Pfaadt, is that that's how you pronounce his name?
Pfaadt, yeah.
Oh my God. I'm always interested in that guy because the bat tends to not like him, right? He typically gets under projected, and today the bat actually projects him pretty decently. So to me, that gives him a little tick up. But I don't think any of these, like, if you're like, I got to play Severino, it's like I don't think he should be like 4 times his own as Dane Dunning, right? I don't think Bryce Miller should be twice as owned as Pablo Lopez. Like, I mean, I just think those deltas are off. I don't think Tarek Skubal should be 30% owned on the slate at all in general, compared to Gausman or Lopez or Bryce Miller or any of these other guys. So to me, I don't think that it's that big of I don't think that it's that big of a deal. You could have you could have 10, 12 pitchers in your pool, and whichever 2 you pick out of those 2, just like if you're playing a Dodgers stack, like maybe you don't play Severino, you play Dane Dunning instead. But if you're like going off the board with your stacks and you're like, okay, I just want to plug in Severino and Matz, I mean, that's fine also. But I don't feel like I don't feel like you're missing out. It's one of those FOMO slates. Like sometimes, like if Freddie Peralta was on this slate, you'd be like, I'm scared of fading Freddie Peralta because he could score 30 plus fantasy points at high ownership and I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like anyone is that on this slate. Obviously, stack wise, I don't feel that way because I never feel that way. So I don't think this is people may say, oh, it's so clear. You play Matz, you play Severino, you play the Dodgers. I don't think it's that. I think people are too overconfident. That is the chalk. You're right. That is the chalk. That is the most probable, but the ownership is gonna be outweighed. That delta between the Dodgers stacks and everyone else, and then Severino and Matz and everyone else, and Skubal and everyone else, it shouldn't be that wide. I'd be much more willing to take shots on I named all those pitchers. If there's ones you're like, oh, I can't play that guy, it's like, dude, there's 10 more that you could play. So pick the 2 that you like the most, and I think you'll be fine.
Play whoever you want.
There it is. That's what I was waiting for sure. About less than 10 minutes. Get in now. Let's not mess with producer Steve. Let's not make this difficult. We got to get those names up on the wheel. I see a bunch of y'all have already hit the avatar in the Discord. Again, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. Jump in the live stream chat channel. You go to Steve HOF at exactly 11:03 in the morning. Just hit the RG avatar. He'll take your name, throw it up the imaginary wheel or the real wheel, however you want to say it. We're going to spin that in less than 10 minutes. And let's not wait to the last second because it makes Steve's life a little more difficult. He's got enough things to do. He's spinning a lot of plates, keeping us on the air. So, yes, go ahead and jump over there. Hit that avatar about 10 minutes or so. TJ coming on in a bit with crunch time. He's saying 100 likes. We get a Spidey bomb. We got to get the blender bomb. I don't know. What is your gimmick? Oh, you have the Green Goblin or something, or that's Chops. You got something. And Alex, I'm afraid to ask. I feel like
I thought someone blenders the blender blobs or whatever. I saw someone named it last time. I forgot.
Blender blobs. That doesn't sound like you. It sound like Husky, like Vinny Pasquantino. Like
I already told you I have Eloy. I already told you I have Eloy Jimenez at plus 525.
All right. Yeah. Well, you're not saying that's just you're betting it because of a math thing. You're not necessarily saying he's the guy.
I'm betting everything because of a math thing. It's the whole thing. And DFS is a math thing.
Blenders blocks, according to Max and chat. Oh, blokes. That's a British thing, right? You're a soccer guy, so maybe sure. Why not? We'll workshop it. And Alex, I don't know if you have a gimmick or not, but by all means. We'll fire off some homers for the people as well. But we do have to talk a little bit of stacks. I might have a little bit of FOMO if I don't have the Dodgers. Of course, there's other lineups we can consider, but biggest total on the board. By the way, bad job by me yesterday. I didn't realize I was calling the dude Andy Pages. Pages. I didn't realize he was Latin.
Andy Pages sounds so much better. It sounds like a newspaper boy. Like, right?
Why is that a good thing? Does that even exist anymore? Is there such thing as is that a job that I can still apply for? Well, I guess I couldn't be a newspaper boy.
It's still a video game, right? You
maybe
play paper boy, right? You have to throw it into the mailbox.
That is a very dated reference, but yes, I did.
That was a great handheld game.
That was just throwing papers at people's windows and like breaking their windows and throwing in the mailbox. What a wild game. Yeah, no lineup just yet for the Dodgers. We are expecting Pages to be in there once again. He's still 2K on FanDuel. DK bumped him all the way up to 2.5. They did their pinch hit stuff again last night. I think they're more likely to do that when lefties are starting. And Washington, I believe, I want to confirm, I think they still only have one lefty in their bullpen. So the chances of the pinch hit shenanigans are less likely. We also had like Muncy not starting, so you knew he would come in at some point if it mattered. They ran out a couple pinch hitters in a row. Let's see. Washington bullpen. Yeah, Robert Garcia. They have one lefty. He's not worked since Saturday, so he's there if you need him. But we're projecting Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Hernandez, Outman, Pages, and Gavin Lux. But, let's talk about some stacks. What is your approach as far as stacks today, Alex?
The Royals, because the White Sox suck. And this guy who is pitching, I forgot his name. I keep forgetting his name, and I put his name wrong in the expert survey, and Andy Beans was like, first of all, we're talking about Jonathan Cannon, not Jackson Cannon. I was like, who's Jason Cannon? And like,
it was creative player. Yeah.
Something like, he's a creative player. And, I looked him up. Let's go back to his page here. He had not a lot of strikeouts in the minors. Walks are a little bit up there. He gave up some dongs last year. And it's the Royals. The Royals away from Kaufman in a good hitter's park. Bobby Witt injected in my veins. Vinny Pasquantino, like good power there. Sal Perez is in the lineup. He can mash. Nelson Velasquez is quietly accumulating a lot of barrels in very few bad ball events. Hunter Renfroe, his power numbers are way down, and they're obviously worse against righties. But who cares? It's the White Sox. Like Hunter Renfroe's got some guns.
Yeah, you pull up the lineup HQ, and the only one that's not really showing a lot of power right on right is Garcia leading off. This is dating back to last season. Say it again.
But he's leading off. He's very high priced. He's very high priced.
Yeah. Witt, I keep talking about Witt. I go to his baseball savant page, and it's completely insane because he's in the 100th percentile in any meaningful category. Just absolutely annihilating baseball so far this year. And also, again, you're looking to win tournaments. Outlier chance. If this game does get squirrely, if it does get goofy, maybe they bring in the shortstop to pinch the ninth inning if the score is like 9-1. You know what I mean? Like you're guaranteed ninth inning, and there's another game they got to play. And are they going to completely burn out their bullpen for the first game? I don't know who's pitching game 2, to be honest, but probably not somebody very good for Chicago. Just Again, that's not unlikely to happen, but there's like a 1% chance. If we're going to have a draft and you're saying which team is most likely to have their shortstop, third baseman, throw baseballs today on the mound, I would say it's the White Sox. Maybe Washington second. But yeah, I think just because of that dynamic of being pretty terrible, 9 innings locked in, and the front half of a doubleheader. What is your approach, Blender, as far as stacks today?
Well, I've just been running some stuff through SimLabs.
And
that's what I use. I do that whole math thing, right? Right. You can't just tell us who you like. It's like you do that math thing.
Just tell me who's going to homer. And why is that so hard?
Well, that too. Everything's a math thing. Running SimLabs right now. Obviously, some of the stuff is going to get a little bit more updated. The teams that show up stack wise towards the top. Now, first off, I mean, obviously, you could use SimLabs if you're a premium member here. So definitely click on that link in the description. We're running a special 6 months of combo premium. You get $250 off, and you get SimLabs. You get to use this for NBA, for a PGA.
Finish
MLB,
the read. Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Right. I mean, this is the simplest way to make good lineups. SimLabs will not give you a bad lineup. So if anything, even if you want to go in and go, I can't play Andrew Abbott today, so cross those lineups out. Let's say you want to play, I'm going to play Tariq Skubal. You could just put it in and say, just give me lineups that have Tariq Skubal, and it'll give you those lineups. You set your little settings on if you're playing small field, large field, how much variance you want in your lineup, how much diversity you want in your set. Build 150 lineups. Feel free to save whichever ones you want, right? And then just determine between the ones, I want to play this one instead of that. Okay, go do it. Very simple way to build positive EV lineups. And the teams that come out towards the top are not the Dodgers. The Dodgers are up there, but the top 3 teams. Number 3.
Let's guess. Let's guess.
Oh, you want to guess? Okay.
Let's play a game.
I'm going to put them into tiers. There's the top tier. There's the very tier 1, tier 2. Let's do 3 tiers. So there's 3 tiers. There's 3 teams in the first tier. There's 5 teams in the second tier, and there's 3 teams in the third tier.
Okay, so Alex.
So we're looking for the top 3.
Top tier. Top 3 teams, I would guess Yankees, Cubs, Royals.
Buckets. Remember, it's buckets. I forgot. We're doing buckets.
Yankees, Cubs, Royals.
Okay, you're either cheating or you're very good at it.
Also, you can multi-guess. You can multi-answer.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
I named all 3 teams in the show already. So
right. Okay, so the Royals aren't in the top bucket. They are in the second bucket, but the Yankees are number 1. The Cubs are number 2. There's the third tier up there that you didn't mention. The Royals are in the second bucket, but they're not in the first bucket. You're missing a top bucket team, and it's not the Dodgers. It should be an easy one if it's not the Dodgers.
Wow, I thought you eliminated the other team. Sorry.
Arizona?
No, Arizona is maybe in the third bucket.
I think you're overthinking.
The Braves are in the top.
So is Atlanta?
Braves.
Yeah, Atlanta.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The middle tier, the middle bucket are the Brewers, the Twins, the Royals, the Dodgers, and the Mariners. The third bucket is like the Nationals, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres.
Everyone else. He says he needs a visual, Blender, because typically on the Grinders Live show, not typically, but most days, we'll have the visual. We'll have like all the tiers broken down, 5 different tiers, and we'll categorize that later on.
Here's the visual.
Show,
here, I'll show you the visual. Look, I'm not just. This isn't imaginary like the wheel, right?
Which we'll see in a second.
This is a real thing. This is SimLabs. It's not an imaginary tool. So I just ran these lines. See, here you get the teams. All the they're all 5-man stacks, right? Even the starting pitchers. And we could even see here that Luis Severino, like what pitchers go like SimLabs likes Matz, Dunning, Skubal, Lopez, but not as much of like Michael King or Luis Severino, not as much Bryce Miller or anyone, even though they're fine. But this is, I'm going to make my lineups like this. This is I use this tool. I have a 2-step process, technically a 3-step process. I will build lineups in SimLabs. I will save not just 150 of these. I may save like 600 of these, right? I may save a ton. I will import them into Lineup HQ where the bat, remember, SimLabs works on the RotoGrinders projections, but I can compare these to the bat projections. And basically, the bat projections are just mean projections. And I'm just kind of weeding out like the bottom. If all these lineups that I'm exporting out of SimLabs are about equal to each other, I'll play the lineups that, the bat doesn't have 12 points lower projected than one another because the bat is a little bit higher on this team or lower on that pitcher or something like that. So I'll weed out a whole bunch of that type of stuff, and I may be left with like 50 or 60 lineups, and then I'll just compare the ownership of those lineups to each other. And then I'm playing 6 lineups tonight, right? Today. Out of the 60, I'll weed it down to 6, right? I may be like, well, do I really want to play Steven Matz in all 6 of my lineups? If the answer is yes, then I don't mind that. But if the answer is no, I may find 4 Steven Matz lineups and then eliminate all the other Steven Matz lineups and go, well, what are the other 2 lineups going to look like? And then eventually I get 6 and click that submit button.
Again, you can get SimLabs if you have RG Premium. You can win RG Premium by, very, very last second. Look, producer Steve's been being kind. He's saying last chance for the likes. If you hit that like button, if enough people hit the like button, we'll give away 2 individual weeks of RG Premium. But we are going to bring on Steve. We're going to spin the wheel that may or may not actually exist, and your name's going to be on the wheel. And if your name pops up, you get yourself 1 week free of RG Premium. Not just MLB, but NBA playoffs, PGA, NHL playoffs around the corner, MMA, everything you can think of, with the exception of NASCAR. NASCAR is a la carte, and as Blender mentioned, if you commit to 6 months, you get yourself a discount of $250 for $169.99. If you don't want to fully commit to that, you can also get your first month of RG Premium for $40 off the limit for a limited time as well. And if you don't want to fully commit to 1 month or 6 months, you can get a 3-day pass for $19.99. The links are in our description for more information. Producer Steve, did we get the 100 likes? Are we just going to spin the wheel once? Where are we at here, Steve?
We didn't get it.
Good Lord. Unbelievable.
I asked in chat a bunch of times.
I thought Blender brings the likes. They didn't give us the thummy thumbs?
Thummy thumbs?
No, we didn't say thummy thumbs. You're the host.
Oh, you should have said that's your thing. I don't want to steal your gimmick.
What the hell?
Why didn't you say thummy thumbs?
I think we got enough imaginary likes, though.
Well, there you go. We can round up. Let's give the wheel a spin and give away a week free of RG Premium.
Random Octopus. Oh, wow.
What a great name. The chat is saying, Steve, that apparently they're there now. Are we at 100 now?
Yeah, we are.
I don't know if that counts. Does that count now?
Yeah, it counts. We can do it. We got 100.
All right.
I'm going to shuffle
They said I'm on a band of people. I wanted to make sure they give away 2 individual weeks. I totally redeemed myself. Let's give it another spin.
Gregorius the Wise. Awesome. All right, I'll
Thank
shoot you
you, Steve.
Discord. Congratulations.
Blender's getting flashbacks to Coachella '97. I see you. Not a Coachella guy, probably. No, Blender. No Coachella for you in your past.
No, I'm not going to Coachella.
Maybe the Warped Tour, but yeah.
Yeah, I used to go to the Warped
Red Bull
Tour.
and vodka. I went to Warped Tour once.
Yeah,
we were talking about Bad Religion before that. I saw Bad Religion, I think, at Warped Tour in Wisconsin when I was a kid.
Rancid was one of the bands I saw at the Warped Tour. I think Blink-182 was kind of one of the staples there at Warped Tour as well. But that no longer exists, right? Warped Tour is gone. I think the kids will never know.
It's gone.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It ended in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, it was a good run though. It was a good run for sure. Saw the remotes.
The end, maybe not so much.
Maybe the Ramones wasn't the Warped Tour. Ramones might have been Lollapalooza. I don't recall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
mixed up.
Warped Tour in the early 2010s was like they started. It wasn't even like punk bands. They were putting back like DJs, and Katy Perry was playing on it. It's like, okay,
come on, you wouldn't
like
stand for that, Blender,
right?
No. I feel like Pennywise was at Warped Tour every year. Pennywise did like 10
that's
straight
the real
Warped
Tour, right? You get skate punk and that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Joseph wants to know, this is for Blender. Do you want a mini stack of the Nats or the Brewers?
Why not both?
Both.
Well, because it's a mini stack. They already have their main stack. They got 5-3.
Put 2 mini stacks together, and you got
maybe they only
2-3-man stack.
One lineup. They're not a baller like you, Blender.
Okay. Why don't you just play a 4-4? Play 2-2-4-4 of the. Well, you probably not. If you play them both together, you have way too. Well, I mean, you could pay up for, I guess, Adames and Hoskins and so. I mean, yeah, you could put that together.
You really don't want to answer that question.
Is expensive.
You have a lean, Alex? Milwaukee or the Nats? I would take the Nats personally.
I would take the Nats, but I mean, you can. I would mini stack both teams if I'm playing 5 lineups or more.
P-Shot wants to know if you've read all those books on your bookshelf. I would imagine. Is it just for show? You're trying
most
to show?
of them. Most of them. I'd say about a third of them are my wife's books that have overflowed from her library into my office. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm 41. I've had a lot of years of reading, so.
Yeah. If I listen to a book on tape, can I say I read the book?
I think you can. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, without going into details. And okay.
I've never done the book on tape thing because I feel like a lot of people do it while driving, and I'm just too distracted while driving. So, but I don't judge against that at all.
But you've heard the snobbery. You've heard it before. The slander. It's like, oh, you didn't really read
I've heard the slander. I've heard the slander.
Yeah, the noses are up and everything.
I traveled, Dean, with a comic. This is way long ago. This is maybe 25 years ago. I traveled with a road comic on a trip once. Because obviously, you don't get paid that much where you're flying everywhere. So you're driving. You're driving for hours. So it was his car. So he offered to drive. We both were doing the same gig. So we're driving. The dude read while he drove. Like physically.
No.
And I'm serious. Physically on the steering wheel, he read books. Obviously, because it's before like audiobooks, really. So like,
it
was like 1999, 2000, something like that.
What's he reading? Is it something intense?
No, yeah, he just read. He would read magazines, newspaper. He would read the newspaper while he drove on an interstate.
So like, tell me you don't trust me to drive my car.
I'm road comic at the time. He was driving 16 hours here and 11 hours there, whatever, and he would read.
But like, would he not allow you to drive? Did you not want to drive? Are you capable of driving?
It was his car.
Like,
what? It was his car. He drove.
Drive his car if he wants to read. I'll let you drive my car.
Guess no, he was because he normally drives by himself. I mean, I drove on the road by myself also. I didn't.
You didn't read while you're driving.
No.
By the way, Justin Verlander is going to make his season debut on Friday. All right, we got a healthy pitcher for.
Man, that guy you can go 7.
Yankees lineup was released: Volpe, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Torres, Verdugo, Cabrera, Wells. So that's pretty much. I think that was as projected. Okay. So we're still waiting on Dodgers. What else don't we have? Right. I mean, I don't know if that's going to affect the ownership a ton. Like if you don't have the Dodgers lineup out before the slate locks, people are still like putting him in there, right? They're not sneaking up on it. Oh man, I totally forgot about Betts and Ohtani. No Cardinals, no A's. That's a late game. No Cubbies. No Reds, no Mariners, not just yet. They should be sprinkling in soon. Reds are normally on top of this. They normally give us a lineup pretty early, but I guess it's still only 9:00 in the morning out there. So, are they even at the ballpark? I don't know. Probably not. We did get Arizona as far as the late games, but still waiting on a pile of lineups. Blender, give the people some homers. The people love the home run calls. They gave us the likes.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll literally look, and I have my phone. I will look up. Here's all the home runs that I have currently. Because I could just type in home runs.
But the lines matter. This is what you're playing the line and you're
Yes,
playing
the
the book.
prices matter. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
But people might say, "Oh my God, I heard this name," and then they're going to bet it in their own book, and they're going to get a worse line, and they're going to come at
Right.
you and say, "Blender, that was
You
a
have
bad
to be
bet."
at these prices. And remember, I'm not putting these are not like I'm putting $1,000 on these home runs. It's just I take whatever's positive and whatever. So I got home runs in the Dodgers game. So I got Betts, Smith. I got Betts at plus 450. Will
Pretty good
Smith
number.
at plus 650. I got Teoscar at plus 425. I also in that game, assuming that he's in the lineup, Riley Adams at plus 675. So I got that.
What happens,
I got
Blender? Is this based on the book? Not to cut you off, but like if Adams is not starting, but he comes in and pinch hits, is that just like you're dead basically? Unless he
It
pitches
depends on the
homer?
rules of the book. Typically, your bet's void if they're not in the starting lineup. Typically, here's a better way of putting it. Typically, your bet is void if it's a two-way market, and he's not in the starting lineup. If there's a no, they have to protect that. Like he comes in and bats once, doesn't hit, and you get the nut right. You understand what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
I also have the daily Mike Trout at plus 330 home run. The books they're not. He should be plus 250 like every day.
I don't know who he's playing.
It's still not down to. He's still at plus 330. So if you've been betting Mike Trout home runs, you're up. The same thing for
Zach
Anthony
Littell.
Rendon. Anthony Rendon at plus 800 at some point. Hopefully. At some point, he will be a major league hitter. And his power is worth more than plus 800. I mean,
at some point, a
all
left-handed position player will come on in and throw Anthony Rendon a baseball.
And obviously, I have Eloy at plus 525. But I didn't pick these out of out of a hat. These are all using the BatX projections by Derek Carty.
Oh, you're done. I thought you're still going.
I can't give them all. I can't give them all out.
Don't be like 25 or 60, but okay.
Alex, how many home runs can you possibly have? They're awful markets. They're typically one way, and they have high holds.
The people like it though. They love it. You got to give what the people they want. They want homers.
Take under Ks on everyone. That's how you make money. Take under Ks on everyone.
The chalk is Shohei Ohtani.
Sure.
He's Shohei Ohtani. The guy who should be chalk, but a lot of people aren't really talking about him, the SimLabs. I was kind of joking when I said the Yankees, but they're actually popping in SimLabs. Aaron Judge is actually second on the bat in terms of home run likelihood. And then is Joey Gallo obscure enough for this game?
Yeah, I mean he's going to be
just Joey
owned in DFS just because he's cheap and you're shooting for homers, but he probably has I don't know, I'm guessing 4-1 or something, top of the head. As far as his line.
Is Manny Machado obscure enough? Because his bat will touch baseballs. Nobody's playing him. His bat will touch baseballs today, and it's a decent hitting park. So I got Manny Machado, and for a pinch hit home run.
What?
Who's this guy? Alexander Canario. They bring in a lefty to back up Brandon Pfaadt
for the Cubbies.
Yeah, pinch hit home run. Yeah, why not? They'll pinch hit for Mike Tuchman. If Mike Tuchman's in the lineup, I don't even know what the Cubs lineup is going to look like.
Tuchman's probably going to be in there, but I think he jumped in. They flipped it the other way when the lefty started last night. Or Tuchman pinch hit for the guy you're mentioning. He only had 2 at bats or something like that. That's one of the things I'm looking at as far as sports betting leaks possibly is betting under on strikeouts for guys that are likely to come out of the game and they're only going to have the platoon advantage and get the hook. I've done that several times and it's worked out successfully in a small sample. And I think that's something worth digging into. And like the Dodgers are another team when they're facing a lefty, you just kind of know certain players are going to have the platoon advantage. And then unfortunately you're betting under on strikeouts for somebody like Chris Taylor, but it's only 2 at bats.
I mean, Gavin Lux is a good under for strikeouts too because he gets he becomes Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas. Yeah,
well, the only thing is that there's only one lefty, but there's a pretty good chance he comes in today. We'll see how that goes down.
You're missing me shushing. You're missing me shushing, guy.
why are you shushing us? We can't have this conversation.
Well, let's just say that you're
He
mentioning
doesn't
a
want
lot
the
of the
pussy,
strike.
yeah.
You're mentioning a lot of
Yeah.
the under K prop stuff batters that I do take when they're
Well, why
plus
were you holding out?
175
Yeah.
and plus 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones I like. That's I've been kind of like going through and like I know you get the bat as well. The bat will tell you like guys that are likely to get pinch hit for that kind of thing as far as probability, but just sort of watching the games. Certain teams with certain tendencies, and once they lose the platoon, we saw Jack Peterson last night got pinch hit for in the 11th inning for a righty. Just he's one of those guys left on left who would sometimes get the hook. We do have Stevie coming in shortly. I believe TJ is coming in. He's already dropped Spotty Bomb number 1. We did have those 100 likes. Michael Harris. I'll tell you what, I got reverse splitsy JP France in the same game. I don't know how ambitious it is. I don't think he's just expensive, so I don't know if people are going to get to him, but I'll say Marcelo Zuna is going to hit one of the Crawford boxes off of reverse splits JP France. Let's see what TJ has to say. Also, we got Dave Potts, Cheese is Good, as well as Stevie, TJ, Cheese. Let's bring on crunch time. It is TJ. Who's that mid-drink? Stevie, okay. I couldn't figure out. Did you know you were going to be? Were you posing?
No, I had a different screen up. So you said let's bring on crunch time, and I was in the middle of a drink.
I finished a huge drink like 3 seconds early because I time these things a little more carefully than Stevie
You're
does.
just
But we're
so
all
much
drinking
more
the
of
water.
a pro. I'm drinking matcha. I gotta get my morning matcha.
Oh, hey, I support that.
What's matcha? Give me the 30-second pitch. What's matcha?
It's like a green tea powder. It's just like a more natural caffeine.
Okay. All
And
right.
Dean, when I say I support it, I don't personally drink it, but I understand that it's better for you than other caffeine drinks. But I personally don't care.
How many
letting
cups
you
of
know,
coffee have you had
support
today, Dave?
Just 2. I really wanted more. It was such an early day, but probably going to take a little nap after this, so I'm okay.
All these pitchers swapping in, swapping out. We didn't know who was pitching last night. We got somebody from the KBO, Albert Suarez, throwing baseballs. Bryce Wilson. What's this Myers name? Tanner Tobias. We got Tobias Myers, who I've just learned of his existence about a half hour ago. A lot of fun, I'm sure, Dave, writing the musings today. Yeah. you're going to earn that nap for sure. Roth is starting his I don't know, he's going to be off the grid for a week. So TJ, you're playing the role of Roth today?
Playing the role of Roth. I got his duties as a host. I tried to lock down meteorologist duties as well. They did not give them to me. So unfortunately that was passed off to a real meteorologist. But doing the role of host, we got Spidey Bombs coming. The first one was Michael Harris. Dean, you're never allowed to get mad at me for not being ambitious ever again when you're picking plus 250 Marcelo Zuna.
He's not going to get played, though.
And so just keep that in mind. I'm picking plus 475 Michael Harris. You're picking plus 250 Marcelo Zuna. But just put that in your back pocket for the future. But we got a fun slate. We got I don't think I've ever done a show with both Stevie and Cheese before. I'm excited.
Yeah, early morning.
It's a rare treat, and you're welcome.
I'm going to correct it. I'm going to add somebody that's a little bit more ambitious in the chat. You make a fair point, TJ. When you make a fair point, I will concede. Ozuna, I don't think he's going to be terribly popular just because he's kind of expensive, but I will be a little bit more ambitious. I'll drop a couple of the Dean Dongs in chat as we step aside and get out of here. Alex, a lot of fun. First time doing a show this season. Blender, as always, good times. Let's yield the crunch time. You got Stevie, you got Cheese, you got TJ. I went ahead and dropped the weather link in chat for the people. All right, TJ, take it away.
What's up, everyone? We got RotoGrinders Crunch Time, MLB, fun little slate, joined by 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. First things first, I'll cover just a brief little weather tidbit of what we have. Our mystery meteorologist has written up in the weather report right now. Only game we have really to somewhat worry about is in Detroit. There may be some thunderstorms coming mid-game that would impact Tariq Skubal. And so Cheese will get your take and Stevie will get your take on what you're doing with that. But before we even do, there's never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium with NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, and MLB. And we've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. Get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's savings of $250 instead of buying 6 individual months of RotoGrinders Premium. Those that want to test run before buying can dip their toes in the water with a 3-day pass at $19.99. Check the links out in our description for more info. You can also get your first month of RotoGrinders Premium for $40 off for a limited time. Tons of different options. And then, of course, if you're playing single entry, you're playing a lot of lineups, doesn't matter. As long as you're playing MLB today, SimLabs is the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs, now available for NBA, PGA, and MLB. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest type you're playing. Just realized that was only supposed to be read for Grinders Live, but it doesn't matter because it's a great product, so you should check it out anyways. Cheese, let me throw it to you first here. What are we doing today with pitcher? Because you know me, when there's 4K guys on the board, I like taking shots.
This is a wildly fantastic slate. It really is. Like, I wish we had another 6 hours because I would be at 150 lineups for this slate. I didn't get there because of what time it is, but I love everything about it. So yeah, like you said, on the pitching side, we've got, if you start with DraftKings pricing, you got 4 or 5 pitchers from the 9 to 10K range that are very playable. You got 4 or 5 pitchers in the 7K range that are playable. And then you got the 2 4K guys who came in at the mix late that are absolutely playable. Personally, I was so high on Freddie Peralta to start when he was originally going to be in there that I started swapping lineups and I was like, okay, I'll just play more Bryce Miller and Brady Singer, which is what everyone's going to do. But I don't like those guys so much that I want to sacrifice the salary. So yeah, I have a lot more like Steven Matz, Dane Dunning type characters. And I am playing both of these 4K jabronis. And really, neither of them are necessarily bad pitchers. Like Albert Suarez went to the KBO and was really good, like kind of whoop-de-doo. It's a KBO. But like he was something close to an almost average major league pitcher before. He should at least throw strikes and get ground balls for $4,000. That's fine with me. And then this Tobias Myers for the Brewers, much more of a wild card, but he could strike out 7 or 8 batters in 5 innings. I don't think that would be shocking at all. I slightly prefer Suarez because I'm not trying to get some huge ceiling game for 4K. I just want to survive, and I think he's a little more likely to survive. But I'm playing both of those guys. I even have them together in some good old Release the Hounds lineups. And then to sort of jump back to the top, Bryce Miller and Brady Singer are my 2 main guys, and I'm pretty much split on them. On FanDuel, I think you can play Scooball a little easier. I still don't love him against Texas and with the delay risk in the middle of the game. It's not like the world's greatest Scooball slate, but I am playing him for sure if I've just got the money sitting around. And then I guess we need to discuss at least a little bit Kevin Gausman, especially on FanDuel, where he's 7,600. 2023 Kevin Gausman would be $11,000 and we'd be playing him. He kind of, even though the last start was a real life disaster, he kind of looked a little better. Like I liked what you actually saw under the hood a little bit. So I'm still not playing him on DraftKings where he's 9K, but I do think he is playable on FanDuel. But in all transparency, I did not get there because I only have a few lineups on FanDuel. So I don't have him, but I do think he is quite viable at that salary.
John Tay Porter just hit with a lifetime ban from the NBA. That's a hefty
I don't know
one,
who that is or what he did, but
he apparently was running a FanDuel VIP betting account for 3 years that had millions of dollars of bets in it, all on NBA props, often regarding himself.
Fantastic.
And so hopefully he made enough in those millions to make it worth it to no longer be playing in the NBA. One last question for you, Cheese, before I throw it to Stevie. If you're playing on FanDuel, who would be your cash pitcher? Does the weather in Detroit impact that at all? And then who would be your optimal cash pairing on DraftKings?
Keep it in mind, I do not play cash games. On FanDuel, I think I would just play Scooball or go all the way down to Steven Matz. On DraftKings, it would be Miller and Singer, but probably you need more salary. I think I would lean Miller ahead of Singer slightly and go Miller Matz.
I like it. Stevie, how you doing this morning? What are you doing with pitchers this morning in tournaments?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Been up for a while, which is weird for me. I don't get up early in the mornings, but yeah, I mean, no Freddie Peralta kind of changed the slate for me because, like, I thought the idea of paying up for Freddie Peralta was smart because of his strikeout upside. And as much as I like Scoble, I just don't know if he necessarily has like the ceiling that Peralta had. You know, he has a tough matchup against Texas. So I think on the safe end, you could potentially play like Brady Singer, but I don't think like he has a lot of upside. So I'm kind of like just going cheap. Blackburn, Severino, Dunning, Matz. Those are the guys that I'm getting in the lineups here. So overall, I mean, I like Severino a lot. He looks healthy. Luis Severino a couple years ago, I mean, more like 3 or 4 years ago, was like a legit ace and has just battled injuries. And there's a lot of reports and articles about like how he has just felt healthier coming into a season for like the first time in 4 years. So I mean, we've seen it, and he's pitched really well. Pirates don't scare me. He's cheap. So I landed on Severino a lot. Like, he's my highest owned pitcher in the 100 lineups that I built today. So, you know, and like Steven Matz, he doesn't give you like a huge ceiling, but he should throw like 5 or 6 good innings against Oakland. So just kind of going cheap. And the weather in Detroit is kind of scary, but I was looking on Radar Scope, and it looks like we're going to get like 2, maybe 2.5 hours of like clean play in that game before like those lines of storms come. So I think we actually have some time where it's okay to take some shots on Dane Dunning and Scoble, because like I think we're going to get 5 or 6 innings before the rain comes, and I'm hoping we get longer than that. A lot of the weather that's over by like the Michigan racetrack right now is like pushing north. So if it pushes north, we should be okay. So we'll see.
All right, sticking it with you, Stevie. Let's talk some stacks. And then, of course, everybody watching, smash the like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe. And at 150 likes, we got Spidey Bomb number 2. If you got questions, I'll be looking at the RotoGrinders live stream Discord first, and then I will be going to the YouTube chat second for some QQs. Stevie, who you like best today for some stacks?
Yeah, I mean, love the Dodgers today. I think they're in a fantastic spot, and I mean, they're just one of the best offenses in baseball. So I think like one of the reasons that I like cheap pitching is because the Dodgers Braves are just in such good spots today. So going to be very heavy on those two teams, and then really like where like Arizona, Chicago, Baltimore, Kansas City, Milwaukee like ownership is. So kind of spreading out my top end stacks between like those 5 or 6 teams. And I think my sneaky stack today is the Yankees. Gausman's velocity is way down. He just doesn't look right. So ended up on quite a bit of Yankees. So prioritizing bats, really spreading out ownership on bats, because I think that we have a lot of bats to pay up for on the slate.
Cheese, how about you? Who are the stacks you're prioritizing today?
Yeah, Dodgers and Braves, like by a lot. And there's a lot to like, but to me, those two are way ahead of the pack, and Kansas City is right there with them. And then I'm spreading out pretty far. And I do, everyone that Stevie mentioned is very much on my board.
Yeah, my top 5 today, it's Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Kansas City 3, Cubs, Arizona, and then tied with Arizona is actually Houston in terms of how many 5-man stacks I have today. Let's start going position by position. We'll go around the horn, then we'll take some QQs after that. First question I saw in Discord was, who's Tim's cash pairing at starting pitcher on DraftKings if he were playing cash? And I don't know because Tim's not here. But so he pivoted. He said he only heard the voice, didn't hear have the screen up. Stevie,
I can see if you glance at it, I can see a little Stevie Tim mix up. Yeah.
Hey, Tim's a good-looking dude. I'm good with that.
Stevie, if you were playing cash, who would be your cash pairing at starting pitcher on DraftKings?
Probably Singer or Severino. If you really want to pay up for bats, I think I'm okay like Severino Mats at pitcher today and just prioritize bats. But I think like Singer is gonna throw 5 or 6 really good innings in this spot, so I don't mind Singer. But yeah, I mean Mats and Severino are my 2 highest owned pitchers on the slate today.
Yeah, I think Matt Severino is probably what I would do there as well, and just load up on all the bats today. Cheese, start us off with the catcher position. Who are we playing?
Definitely Will Smith. We are still waiting on a Dodgers lineup, but he should be in since he didn't play last night. Love Will Smith. Really like Sal Perez. Travis d'Arnaud in Brave stacks. Yeah, I've got my paper upside down. Francisco Alvarez, I like as kind of a mid-tier one-off. I do like tossing some Mariners power bats into the MME mix, like both Garver and Raleigh if they're in the lineup. Abbott should give up some home runs. That's my main pool right there.
Stevie, how about you? A cheap pitcher probably in your stack.
A cheap catcher, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Cheap catcher probably in your stack.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you're not paying up for like, we have a lot of catchers to pay up for today, and we have actually some value throughout the fielders. So like, I actually ended up with more expensive catchers than I usually do. I like Perez, I like Contreras, I like Rutschman, I like Smith. I think those guys just have such a high ceiling today. And, you know, if you're on the cheap end, Austin Wells against Gaussman, Langoliers against Mats, Alvarez against Falter. I don't even mind like Jeffers. I don't know if I really trust Suarez coming back from the KBO after like 5 years and expecting him to be good. So, but for like one random time ever, I actually prioritize paying up for catcher because there's just so much ceiling with the top end guys today.
I like it. That makes sense. Why don't we stick with you and go with first base?
Yeah, I mean, outside the obvious of like Freeman, Olsen, Walker, Alonso, you could play Ohtani at first base if you wanted to, but if you're not looking at those guys, I mean, the cheap guys, Michael Busch, Vinny, Ryan O'Hearn, Joey Gallo, and Jake Bowers, like just kind of looking at either going way up or way down here. I really like Milwaukee. King has been awful against lefties to start the season. Milwaukee is really good. I don't know if they're going to continue to be really good, but they've been really good so far this season. So they steal bases. They have home run upside. So, yeah, I mean, I like all these first basemen. Really, I don't really kind of want to poo-poo on any first baseman today.
Cheese, is Michael Busch hitting another home run today?
Almost certainly, yeah. But there's going to be a lot of home runs at first base. Like, I don't feel like today's the day you just take one home run. Like a 1 for 4 with the solo homer is not going to be enough on this slate. Right. Like, it's such a crazy slate. Kind of going back to this, you can just pay down at pitching. So, yeah, get Ohtani on DK or Olsen and Alonso. I think Alonso's probably my favorite because I think he'll be the sneakiest. But all these guys get ownership a little bit and enough that it's split up that if you have a clear favorite, other than maybe Ohtani on DK, I think you just play the one you like and don't worry about like guys like Alonso, Walker, and Olsen in particular. They'll all just kind of split up that 10% range. So I'm not concerned about that. Same group of cheap guys as Stevie mentioned. Gallo can obviously always hit a homer. Agree with the Brewers being an interesting play. Yeah, it's loaded, and I've mixed and matched the first baseman, but I'll call Alonso my favorite.
I keep forgetting that I'm the one hosting and I'm waiting for Roth to then throw it to me because you're
Right.
done talking. And so I'm just sitting here waiting and then going, oh, I'm actually the one who's supposed to transition it. Geez, who do you like in today Stevie, who do you like today at first? No, we did that. I'm all in my own head. I threw
Hey,
myself
how about this? How about I go to second?
Yeah, you go to second,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Stevie afterwards. TJ, you're hosting. TJ, you're hosting. TJ, you're hosting. Bam, it's in there now.
Yes, great job. So very obviously, Mookie Betts, if you have all the salary in the world, like he's not as much a priority as the Dodgers lefties, but by all means, like play Mookie Betts anywhere you can because he's awesome. Ketel Marte, I like a lot. I think guys like Altuve and Semien and Gleyber Torres are just completely unowned with interesting upside. Because I think people are probably either going to play Betts or go cheap with like Gavin Lux and Louis Garcia and these guys, maybe some Colt Keith. They'll all be popular on DK. I think what goes overlooked is that mid-tier, like Gleyber Torres, who I mentioned. I think you can play Zach Geloff, Xander Bogaerts. That gets you different and fits kind of easily in your builds. It's not easy to get bets in, but it is pretty easy to get a 4K guy. So like most positions, I have a little bit of everything today because there's so much to love. But I think my highest owned player is Lux just because of how much Dodgers I'm playing. But I don't love him as a one-off. He's got some pinch hit risk, and he's not one of the 5 best Dodgers. So ideally, I would spend up.
It seems as though everyone's arthritis is in full effect early in the morning. The fingers are frozen. They can't hit the like button. I'll give not one, but 2 more Spidey bombs and 150 likes. Get us up over 150, and I got 2 more Spidey bombs coming for the people. Stevie, who are you liking at second base?
Yeah, I mean, I think you prioritize Mookie, whether it be at second or shortstop. He's one of the top hitters in baseball. Like, might be the top hitter in baseball this season. Outside of that, I mean, pretty much everybody that Cheese mentioned, I have Lux. He's my highest owned second baseman as well. I like Julian hitting leadoff for Minnesota today. He's kind of in that like really nice price range where a lot of stuff works, and I don't believe in Suarez, so I don't mind him. And then we didn't really talk about the Padres when we were talking stacks, but Wilson stinks, and the guy that could potentially pitch in like long relief, Tobias Myers, has a home run problem. So I think San Diego is really interesting. So like getting some Xander Bogaerts, I think is fine. Torres against Gausman is fine. And then, I mean, again, going back to my Brewers, man, Terang, he's not a guy that's going to get you home runs, but he's a guy that can steal like 2 or 3 bases in a game. So I don't mind him even hitting towards the bottom. The Brewers lead the majors this season in stolen bases against right-handed pitching by like 3 or 4 stolen bases. So just going to continue to play the Brewers for that like stolen base upside.
I like it. Let's see. How many likes did we get? Did the extra push do anything at all? It did. We are at 150 likes. Good job, everybody. If we get it up over 200, I got even more Spidey bombs. That's less than half. There's over 400 people watching on YouTube. We should be able to get that done. Spidey bomb number 1 was Michael Harris. Number 2 is Pete Alonso. You can get him for plus 400. I don't get why Pete Alonso's odds to hit home runs are always so good. And then finally, Spidey bomb number 3 is at the second base position that we just talked about. It's Jose Altuve plus 500 to hit a home run today. Altuve's Spidey bomb number 3. Let's get the likes up over 200, and we can even get 4 and 5. Keeping it with you, Stevie, who you like today at third?
Yeah, I mean, third base is a position I'm very spread out ownership wise, just kind of looking on lineup HQ here. Austin Riley, I like him. I like the Braves, obviously. Machado, Garcia, Muncy, and like even some of these cheaper options like Toro against Mats on teams that I don't have Mats. I don't mind taking some shots on him. Oliver Dunn hitting 5th for Milwaukee today. He's cheap on FanDuel and DraftKings. Cabrera against Gausman. So yeah, I mean, very spread out position for me. One of the reasons that we just like the cheap pitchers today is just absolutely so many hitting options. And kind of what me and Cheese keep saying. But yeah, I mean, just going to continue to pay up for bats because I'm saving so much money at pitching.
We got a couple of catchers that are scratched from this game, and if I'm not mistaken, scratched from the slate, sorry, and if I'm not mistaken, they're from the same team. Henry Davis and Joey Bart both have been scratched from the game. So
how's that possible?
I don't know.
I don't think Davis is in the
that's
lineup.
True.
I'm
think
wondering if
I think they mean Bart got scratched for Davis. I think that's
yeah.
probably
I was going to say Davis wasn't in the lineup.
They probably just saw the catcher was being scratched and assumed it was Davis. Posted about Davis first because that was 3 minutes before Bart, and then maybe updated it to Bart. And so, I mean, in theory, Davis could still be. They could be saying he's injured, even then. That's why he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
But
Bart got scratched for Davis.
Probably Bart for Davis. Who you liking for at third base today, Cheese?
Max Muncy. I mean, I can keep talking, but like salary wise, like he's so much cheaper than Austin Riley. I mean, yeah, I like Austin Riley too, but I mean, I like Muncy, and I have a few other things. I have Chris Morel. I have a little Machado. But sometimes I mentioned so many names, all these positions. Why not just say the guy that I'm playing? That's Max Muncy.
I like it. We'll take it over to shortstop for me.
So if Mookie Betts is not the best hitter in baseball, it's because it's Bobby Witt. And I love the idea of playing Betts and Witt together with these cheap pitchers. If I can only have one, I'm playing Witt ahead of Betts. But like these guys are just ridiculously fantastic. It's fine to save some salary. I mean, you can't just play all these guys in every lineup. Like, you know, CJ Abrams is also good at baseball and he's a little cheaper. I think you can play Willie Adames, a little cheaper. But like, this is really not the spot I want to be punting because of how good these top guys are. And add in, like, I want a little bit of Gunnar Henderson. I want a little bit of O'Neal Cruz, a little bit of Manny Machado. And so really this is kind of like the last place on the board I want to punt.
Is shortstop the new third base? Because it seems like it's not really it's not a one-time thing. It's every slate. Shortstop is so strong. Third base is just kind of meh. It seems like
they've definitely swapped. And really the middle infield has taken over the corner in general. Like second base is better than first most days. Like it's strange. Part of it is just because of Betts and Witt, but they're both pretty deep positions as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Is Davis in the lineup for Pittsburgh, and we got a Dodger lineup, and it is exactly what we projected. Stevie, who you like in today's shortstop?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not prioritizing Betts and Witt, I don't know what you're doing. You know, those two guys
well said.
Yeah.
Yes. That's one of my favorite sentences of all time. Yes.
The only thing I'll say, like, I do like Henderson as like a tournament pivot because I mean Betts and Witt are just such great plays. I think Henderson has a lot of upside against Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez hasn't looked right yet. Like he's struggling. I was looking at some of his advanced metrics and like nothing is pointing in the right direction for Pablo Lopez. So I don't mind getting some Baltimore. So I don't mind Henderson. And then, like, if I'm not playing those guys, I like the Abrams call. Again, Washington, like Milwaukee, they like to run. So, like, they're not necessarily going to get you a ton of home runs, but, I mean, stolen bases add up quick. So, and then on the really cheap end, which I don't know how much I'll really get to, the dude from Atlanta and then Alexander from Arizona against Wicks. But those would be, like, if I'm stacking those teams and I just want a cheap shortstop to play or cheap third baseman. Shortstop to play some expensive outfielders or something in the stack.
And speaking of those expensive outfielders, who are you going with today?
Who not? I mean, there's so many good outfield plays today. Obviously, I think Ohtani is one of the top hitters, if not the top hitter on the entire slate. So absolutely love him. I think that, you know, he's obviously a guy you can pay up for. Michael Harris against France, I think, is great. I know he was one of your Spidey bombs. Juan Soto, again, don't like Gaussman at all, so I don't mind Soto. And then kind of, again, going back to these like cheap Milwaukee outfielders, Milwaukee has been a fun team to stack this year. They have so much upside and can get it done so many different ways, and I just don't think King is good, so don't mind the cheap Milwaukee outfielders. You could do like a wraparound stack with these guys hitting towards the bottom of the order. But honestly, like outfield is just going to come down to who you're stacking and what lineups you're stacking, because, I mean, there's just so many good outfield plays today.
I'm putting in here at the last minute what we're calling my Stevie stack, and it's going to be a Milwaukee full stack with a Baltimore mini stack. Cheese, who you liking today in the outfield?
Well, I just like the idea of just Stevie stack as a general thing we should do every day.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, and it's going to work. Yeah, the outfield is also pretty fantastic. Ohtani's my favorite play. Certainly want some kind of high-end one-offs with Judge, Soto, and Tatis. I love the mid-tier on DraftKings of like the Royals guys, Melendez, Velasquez, and then James Outman. They're all really affordable. Marcell Ozuna, also one of my favorite plays. It's loaded. You can play a cheap guy or two. You can play Pages again for the Dodgers, or you can play keep flipping my sheet back over. You can play, Hunter, not Hunter Renfroe. Who am I?
Could play Hunter Renfroe.
I can't read my own writing though. Yeah, that's what that says. I scribble, Tigers lefties, Kerry Carpenter at 37 on DK. Dunning is good against righties and not against lefties, so I don't mind a Carpenter. Or Riley Green's a little expensive. I don't mind him either. But really, I have a whole bunch of that mid-tier, mostly Royals plus Outman, with one expensive guy.
All right. Well, why don't you each give us a couple home run calls, and then we will start taking some QQs. And you can't veto it because I still need to finish up this lineup that I'm putting in my Stevie stack.
Your Stevie stack should be Dodgers Brewers. I don't think the Brewers.
I already have lots of Dodgers.
Yeah,
today.
but how many Dodger Brewer stacks do you have? That's the question.
I might have a few of those because I actually already had Brewers in my 150 max set, but I didn't look into Lopez at all. I slept in this morning, and so I don't have any Baltimore, and so I'm making one Baltimore Brewers. There's a ton of money left in here, so I got my Singer. Who's my other? Ugh. Don't like the range it leaves me for SP2. Might have to adjust a couple things. But nonetheless, I got a lot of Dodgers today, so I'm not too worried about that. Stevie, who you got for some home runs today?
I'm going to steal one of Cheese. I'm guessing Cheese has this guy, but I love this guy for a home run today. Give me Max Muncy to go yard. Absolutely like him. And then whether you like hot streaks or not, this dude's just hitting the ball hard. He hit the ball hard all night last night in his 0 for 4 game too. But give me Michael Busch in this spot. Just everything off the bat for Michael Busch right now is just a hard hit. So those are the two that I had written down. And if you want a third one, give me Pasquantino here from Kansas City.
We do like hot streaks on Crunch Time for sure. Yeah.
Hot streak or not, dude. Did you look at his advanced stuff? And he's scorching the ball.
Really, two of the guys you said would have been two of the three I would have named with Muncy and Bush. I'll just simply go Melendez instead of Pasquantino. That whole team is going to hit a home run. And then we'll go with Marcell Ozuna as well.
All right.
Does it scare you at all that you picked the home run that Dean picked with Ozuna?
Dean knows a few things. It doesn't always seem that way, but he does know a few things.
I lowered my ownership to Ozuna when Dean gave out the home run.
I got him he's in that Stevie stack right now as a one-off, so that's worrisome.
That doesn't match up at all now. Then it's
a Stevie stack with a Dean Dong, or is it a Dave's Dong?
That's a rough stack.
Let's go to some QQs here. Late jumping in, Gaussman or Freed on FanDuel, Cheese?
Essentially, I would say neither, but I would play Gaussman ahead of Freed, just maybe today's the day he gets it back. But definitely don't love either.
I mean, if you're looking at last year, both of those totally reasonable options.
Yeah. Like I said, like Gaussman, 2023 Gaussman would be like 11K on this slate and a reasonable play. And he is underpriced, but you don't really need the salary that much.
Stevie, favorite single entry stack for FanDuel?
I mean, it's the Dodgers, but if you want to get different, give me Arizona. Like this whole series, like I think we're undervaluing how many relief pitchers has been used in this series. Like they threw 13 pitchers last night in the game. And they went to extra innings 2 nights in a row. So I'm on this Arizona train. I don't know if I think Jordan Wicks is good or not, but he gives up a lot of fly balls and hard contact, and that's kind of what we target for stacks.
I also just want to say, I think in general, the industry is underrating the fact that these are two of the best teams in baseball. Like offensively, they're both top 10 teams.
Yeah, Arizona. Right after Dodgers, Braves, and Royals, my next 2 highest owned stacks today are the Cubs and Arizona, and I'm feeling pretty good about that one. Cheese, we need a DK cash punt in the outfield, 2,400 or less. Would you go with Fletcher, Senzel, or Clase?
And 24 is a tough level. I guess at this point, if Senzel is in the lineup, I'm not even sure. Like he's not an everyday player. I guess I would lean Senzel. Clase would be next.
How much did they say? 25 or 24?
24, because you got Pages at 25, but
his name is like Podges or something. I was watching the Dodgers game last night, and they're like Andy Podges.
Payes. It's either Payes.
I don't know.
The G is either an H or a Y.
It threw me for a loop. That's all I'm gonna say.
Names tend to do that for you, Stevie.
I don't know what you're talking about. I am an expert.
Phenomenal as you are as a sports analyst. Names definitely tend to give you the business. For what it's worth, I think I would probably go Clase there. That guy just seems to have a lot of big upside early on. He's fast. He's got some power. I like going with him quite a bit. I think in this Cubs lineup, I'm trying to figure out who is not in the lineup that we were projecting, but I think there is one change here because we got Master Baloney in the Cubs lineup, and I don't believe we were projecting him to be in there. It's Happ, Swanson, Bellinger, Morel, Bush, Horner, Tauchman, Gomes, and Master Baloney.
So Garrett Cooper
is the odd man out.
So he's not in.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't really playing Garrett Cooper today anyway, right? Like first base is loaded. Cooper's not cheap. I will say, like, I've been watching a lot of Cubs games, and I think we just have to respect the fact that like Garrett Cooper might actually be like a good real life hitter.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You leave Miami, it probably helps your hitting a little bit as well. Taking it back to the QQs, Lineup HQ needs a filter to force Stevie's stack and a ding dong into a lineup. Page is pronounced like Tejas, so Pejas is his name. Pejas. Going to YouTube for some QQs here. We got some people. Gator Nation with you in Florida. Stevie says the Brewers smashed today. Stevie, you want Harrison Bader or Tyrone Taylor?
I think I'd go Bader. Bader has been really good against left-handed pitching in the small sample that we've seen him healthy. Tyrone Taylor, not a good hitter. We'll see if he's a good hitter, but like doesn't project as a good hitter. But like Bader, he's like a 240 ISO against left-handed pitching, and he hits the ball hard and in the air. So I would definitely prefer Harrison Bader in that.
All right, Stevie, this one's specifically for you. It's asking about an entire lineup without actually saying the entire lineup. So I think it's okay.
Oh, these are my
especially if we don't
favorite.
do you like pairing Severino and Blackburn and DK GPPs with a Yankee stack and some Milwaukee and Baltimore value?
Sure. I mean, I don't think Blackburn is a bad option today. I think he's like part of the handful of guys that can get you like 20 DK points. It's not like Paul Blackburn's going to go out and get you like 35 points, but you know, he's in that like mid-tier. He's a solid everyday pitcher. And he's a guy that can like throw like 6 or 7 good innings because the Cardinals are just atrociously bad this year.
Cheese, what do you think about the Padres in tournaments today? Will they be low owned?
They will be low owned, and I love them. I think they moved up to the top of my second tier with the pitching change.
Stevie, in a Brewers and Royals stack, would you go Miguel Garcia or pay down to Dunn at third?
Yeah, I think if you can fit Garcia, I would fit Garcia. I just think Garcia is the better overall hitter. And I mean, Dunn started the season super hot. He's been kind of slow. They've sat him on the bench a little bit here recently. So maybe he's trying to prove himself today against a bad pitcher. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think that I would get Garcia if I can get Garcia. I think the Royals are in a really good spot. The White Sox bullpen has been struggling, and I don't know if Cannon's going to be good in like 2 years, but Jonathan Cannon is just not major league ready. The White Sox are they're desperate right now. They're just doing everything they can to try to find some arms to eat up some innings. But I think Jonathan Cannon has some upside later, but he's not even close to major league ready.
Stevie, another one specifically for you. They tuned in late. Who are your top stacks and top pitchers?
Yeah, I mean, top pitchers today is a fun question. I'm playing a lot of Severino and Matz. I don't know if I necessarily call them top end pitchers. Scoble, Singer, and we didn't really talk about him too much, but I don't mind taking some tournament shots on Bryce Miller. Like strikeout wise, he's one of a few guys that actually can get 7 or plus strikeouts here. So as far as stacks, Dodgers, Braves, and then it's a pretty big gap to like Arizona, Chicago, New York, Kansas City, Baltimore, Milwaukee. You know, just really building around the Dodgers and Braves with a lot of like 4-4 stacks around some of these secondary teams.
This is a tough one for you, Cheese. Vinny P or Bush on DK?
Slightly Vinny P. I mean, I love them both, though.
Is plate IQ down? No, it's not. I just did a refresh. It seems to be working just fine. Stevie stack with a Dean Dong sounds like a big lunch. Texas stack, very low owned. What are your thoughts on a Texas stack, Cheese?
I mean, if you have like 40 lineups, you should have a Texas stack because they're Texas. But there's a ton of things that are low owned. Like, don't play them because they're low owned. Like, there's 12 teams that are low owned.
Top pitchers for DK small field tournaments. The top projected ones we've mentioned, it's Matz, it's Severino, and it's Brady Singer. Is the Dodgers pitcher Knack any good for FanDuel or DraftKings, Stevie?
No, I don't think so. Like, Washington is not a bad team. Like, they don't have a ton of power, but they get on base, they run. Knack doesn't grade out as like this huge prospect or anything. So, I mean, he's a 26-year-old that has been pitching in the minors quite a bit here for the last 4 years, 5 years. So, decent strikeout upside, but huge fly ball guy. Really struggles with walks at times too, and command. So I just don't think that Knack is a guy you want, especially like you have to think Dave Roberts too. If Knack starts to get in trouble, Yarbrough ate up a lot of the innings last night and in that bullpen game. So I think if Knack gets in trouble, they'll go to the bullpen pretty quick here.
And the other thing, like Knack is essentially the same as the 4K guys. I mean, we didn't used to have the 4K guys. Like I can't make it. I'm with Stevie. I don't know why you would play him today.
Would you be more inclined to play him if his first name was Nick?
I would lock him in.
Yes, that makes sense.
Nick Nack Paez.
We got 4 minutes left to lock. Let's throw it in a little bit of a lightning round. Cheese, Bader or Bowers on DK?
Bowers.
Stevie, Grichuk or Renfro in a FanDuel GPP?
Grichuk.
Showing absolutely no respect for Chicago Cubs Michael Busch. He's my third highest owned first baseman.
I feel like that
both Stevie and Cheese picked him as their home run plays.
We spent
today.
like 5 minutes talking about how great he is, so I'm not sure they must have missed the beginning of the show.
He is one of the most loved players on the slate. Favorite pitchers for a FanDuel GPP, Stevie and Cheese. So I'll go Stevie first.
Severino, like he just kind of fits everything in there on FanDuel. I think he has a good chance to get a quality start here. So Severino, and then like I said, I'm playing a little bit of Miller, but not a lot. I'm prioritizing bats today.
Cheese, favorite pitcher for a FanDuel GPP.
Bryce Miller.
DK, outfielder 3,600 or less, Stevie.
Oh, I gotta pull up this old lineup HQ real quick.
In the meantime, Judge or Ozuna for a FanDuel GPP, Cheese.
I mean, Judge. I do love Ozuna, but Judge.
To
Stevie
answer Frelick. I like Frelick a lot, batting leadoff against King.
Isn't Scobo the metric for spiciness of a hot pepper? Cheese, that sounds like a you question.
I don't know. I would have to look that up. I hope it is. That sounds amazing.
Next time he's pitching, that's Scoville. Next time he's pitching, I want this included in the $1 Million Musings. I think that would be.
It will be brought up for sure.
Perfect.
He's really good, right? Like, it's a tough matchup against Texas, but I mean, he's definitely the most talented pitcher on the slate. So, like, if you are not prioritizing bats, I mean, playing him is perfectly fine today. And, I just hope he wins the Cy Young so I can cash my ticket.
Cheese, again, this is lightning round. Top 3 Ben & Jerry's flavors.
New York Super Fudge Chunk Fish Food and Chocolate Fudge Brownie. Fish Food is fantastic. It's chocolate ice cream with like some marshmallow in it and these little chocolate fish. And you think marshmallow? No, but trust me, you want it.
You need to try everything, but that is I don't know if you tried that one or not, but that is the bee's knees.
Yeah. Oh, if you're talking to me, I mean, I think I've tried all of them. It's a tough call. They do good work over there.
They do.
Stevie, top 3?
Everything but by far for me. And then my wife likes half baked, so I eat that one all the time too.
All right, seems like that is it for QQs. We have reached lock. I gotta get Garrett Cooper out of some of these lineups here, seeing if there's any last minute questions coming in. That seems like that is it. So on behalf of myself and Stevie and Cheese and all-star crew today, apologies for my forgetting I'm hosting halfway through the show mishaps. That's what happens when you have ADHD. But on behalf of myself, Stevie, Cheese, Steve behind the scenes, whole RotoGrinders crew, you have been crushed.